2B is the first guest character and second DLC character of Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising, and as she is not a denizen of the skies, she plays by her own set of rules from her own universe. And today we're going to be breaking down her Assault mechanic, which is a replacement for the Triple Strike mechanic that exists for the rest of the Granblue Fantasy vs. cast. Appreciate you all for jumping in and watching. It's going to be a very rudimentary guide to just this part of 2B's kit. There's a lot to figure out with this character, I think, and it's probably going to take some time for us to unpack all the different things and figure out her flowchart, as well as the counterplay to a optimized flowchart. But let's get started off with explaining probably like the most surface level complex mechanic that she offers everybody, and then trying to make it easy to understand for everyone going through. And hopefully this just means that it's a little easier for you to learn how to fight against 2B or to play 2B yourself. So, Glory to Mankind, let's get into it. If you don't know, if you need a refresher, there's proximity normals in Granblue Versus. Once you get up close, you get access to your close starting normals. And then after that, you get a triple attack sequence where you can press any buttons. Like if I'm Grimnir, I can do medium, light, heavy, light, medium, heavy. The following two buttons are always the same. You can change these finishers to be a universal low by pressing 6M, or forward and medium, or into a universal overhead by going forward and heavy, or 6 heavy. So that's just something very straightforward to sort of explain. Pretty much everyone in the cast has this. This only comes out like on hit and on block because it is a proximity normal. You have to be in this range for it to work. 2B doesn't play by those rules. Regardless if I'm full screen or up in your face, my buttons are all, my starting buttons, I should say, are all the same. But now what makes her unique, though, is that she doesn't need to hit you to get her entire attack sequences out. She can mash the buttons, go all the way through. Right. Which, you know, lets her be maybe a little bit of a gorilla in neutral, but honestly, you know, if you hang outside of this, you got some projectiles, you can kind of just punish her for flailing around very angrily. This also means that if she's trying to combo you and she drops the combo, whereas some other characters, if they're trying to combo into their triple attack, if it drops, they're not going to get the rest of the triple attack chain, so it kind of like has a built-in safety feature. But if 2B drops a combo, nothing's stopping her from doing normals on whiff, so that can create some odd scramble situations. Just something to be aware of. I don't have an example prepared for you right now. So 2B has a light assault, a medium assault, and a heavy assault. There are other names for those assaults. I can't remember them. There's like slashing, smashing, but light, medium, and heavy just to designate what buttons that you can do from these, right? Now, her light normal is just a series of very quick strikes, and it ends with a little rocket punch looking attack. Now, if I turn on the frame data real quick, we can see the frame data. She's got a plus on block, 5L, -2 on block, 5LL. Doesn't really put her in good range to tick throw. A -6, and a -6 for all those. Her mediums, her 5M is -10 on block. 5mm is -8, as is 5MMM, the third attack, and the fourth attack as well, also -8. So these are fairly punishable. Her heavies have similar frame data, -10 on 5H, -10 on the second hit, third on the third, or -10 on the third, and the finisher here is also -10 on block. Much like the rest of the cast as well, there's, you know, if you stay within your button lanes, there is no gap here, right? So we'll set Grimnir real quick to like mash, standing light, no gap, no gap, but that was punished, right? And no gap. Much like the triple attack sequences, if you go, well, whereas in triple attacks, I should say, the third hit is special cancelable so long as you don't do the low or the overhead finisher. Then you are able to special cancel all those hits. 2B is able to special cancel all the way up to the third strike in her assault chains, but once she commits to the fourth, or an ender, which I will explain in a moment, she can no longer special cancel. This also includes her ability to do her run cancels. Which her run cancel seems to have a little bit of utility as just a way to restart offense, right? Like if the opponent isn't mashing, you know, looks like a very good way of going for a quick throw at any moment, right? And you have to imagine, too, when you leave a gap like this, if you time this correctly on a read for when your opponent's going to try to Brave counter you, you can basically create this opening and then get a full punish started for yourself, right? So I think that's something that's going to make 2B a little bit as strong if you can make the right reads. But do note that if you go for these run cancels, unless you go for the back one and just completely disengage, you're not really going to be able to bait like a mash or a DP, right? Like you have to delay this a bit. He has a follow attack, and you have to be aware of when you get all this. But if you do this with no delay, your parry frames expire before the attack will come out and hit you, right? So you have to like manually delay to get a parry, and you really only have like a couple opportunities on some of your normals with that, right? Like here, I'm trying to do it under -2. Not really working. So there is a little bit of startup to the parry, very tight window with it. Something to be aware of, that, you know, just going for the run cancels does put you at a little bit of a risk. Now let's talk about the enders to her assaults. Because unlike other characters, if you press different buttons as you're doing your block strings or your chains, then you will change the behavior of the attack itself, and that gives 2B a couple of, it gives her 3 finisher attacks, actually. If you start with lights and you go into mediums, 2B is going to do this 2-attack sequence here with the sword, right? And then she's going to cartwheel back and she's going to fire a rocket punch at you. Now, there is a unique behavior to this as well. Let's go ahead and show the frame data. Where if I hold the ending button, right? If I hold it, I'm actually able to not shoot out the rocket. I can just stop here and be chill. I am -21, but at this range, it's pretty safe. So, to me, this sort of just seems like a very safe way of, I want to, like, bait out a reversal. Now, again, because this is a true string at any given moment, like, the opponent would probably recognize this and go, oh, like, all right, I should stop mashing my reversal option here. So, but maybe you can catch somebody with it. The combo utility doesn't seem very high with this route either. Like for example, make sure they don't block. You know, you don't get a wall bounce, you don't get like any sort of real follow-up there. Kind of, and you know, in mid-screen, if you end with this, kind of push them back. So maybe, you know, if you want to play a farther range matchup, maybe that's something that you want to go for, but I don't think 2B necessarily. She's got some great pokes, you know, she's got range skills that she can use as well, so maybe it's something that for her to consider in some matchups. It is a choice that you have, and I think giving characters options are always good things, so there might be a situation where this is good. Now, if you go from lights into heavies, she cuts into her heavy finisher, but you also see that this arm's coming down. You get a little baseball mini game from the game itself, actually, where you can line this up, and if you hit the timing correctly, you throw this whole fireball at it, which I think is really cool. Now I'm going to make a quick recording with Grimnir here. You can see it's a proper fireball. It's going to clash with other fireballs, right? So she sort of does have a full screen fireball that is a little funny. Not really great ways to combo into this. Because, you know, you can combo into the finisher pretty easily from her heavies. But if you want the saucy stuff, you want to get this hit, because if you do, you actually get a wall bounce and you can combo off of it. So I'm not sure what situations you're going to be able to set that up into. Maybe there's something off of some of her special moves that you can look into to get a little saucier damage route, right? So there might be a combo use for this, but just sort of keep that in mind, as it were, that this is a sort of fireball option. One big strength for her, too, actually, is that this can act as a frame trapper again, right? Like, so, again, if we're trying to call out the opponent trying to brave counter us, at any moment in our block string, we can do this frame trap, get the launcher, and then all of a sudden we're doing pretty good damage. So 2B has a couple of ways to create these frame traps where in her block strings and do different things where other characters can't. And, you know, if you're worried about someone mashing on you, well, this is sort of like, to me, her most readily apparent frame trap. You're gonna have to do it off a light to get the timing right. Or off of her 5LL, right? So, but again, if you do this, you're not really going to get too much of a pickup here, so enemy's probably not going to be afraid of that one too much, but it is an option in the back pocket that you can add to the mental stack to keep the opponent guessing. Now, her medium into heavy, and her heavy into medium assault ender. Big flurry sequence. This seems like her go-to combo ender if you're not going to use like a normal or special. Not normal. If you're going to like use a special or something like that, right? You get a good knockdown. You plus 22 in their face, mid-screen. You know, pretty close to maintain your offense. So timing to follow up can be a little tricky. So, there's something there. I mean, you're probably just at a range where, like, you can just sort of time a normal afterwards to get your meaty pressure going right. She does have some excellent space normals. And again, because you have all these cancel options. And then again, you threaten the special moves. I think there's a lot of creativity that you can have with 2B. But the most important thing for this is part of combos, right? Because by doing these assault transitions, I'll call them, you're able to build up a more skill gauge, right? So if we do this skill, right, and I do a normal combo, you can see we just sort of regenerate skill normally. But if you see here, if I go from my light into medium, or even my medium into light, all of a sudden we just like regenerate a whole bar of our skill grid pretty much immediately back. And this is more so true for going from mediums into heavies. You build 2 bars back by doing this finisher. So I think that a lot of combo routing with 2B is going to be getting your mediums to go into the heavy assault so that you get the 2 of your skill gauge back so that you can use more of her special attacks. So I think that's something that's going to be very important to manage at that level. And if you want to be safe, right, like I'm actually curious if I'm blocked. Yeah, you get something here, right? I need a Grimnir to not mash on me. On block, you don't get any of those properties. It's only on hit. Right? But again, you can kind of create some odd situations. You know, fade back. Oh, I didn't do my attack. Here's a plus on block hammer for you. Maybe it's a little too gimmicky. The opponent could probably like move around, jump, do some other things. But it's something for us to lab and try to find what's the best option and the best flowchart to develop from some of these situations. That pretty much is it for the Assault Guide on 2B. That's just how her block strings, her attacks, some of her combo routing, as far as her buttons go, is going to work. I think there's a lot to explore with this character. There's a couple of rudimentary ideas that we can unpack on day 1, but digging deeper into the sauce is something that 2B mains and specialists are going to have to go into. But still, if you want to learn 2B and you needed to wrap your head around what am I doing with all of these assaults and when do I press what button, how do I get this version to come out, I hope that this video helped you find those answers. Glory to mankind. Not me not being able to do 720 inputs.